All right, so we were sent a screener for the Hulu original horror film Hold Your Breath, starring Sarah Paulson. Now, I was looking forward to this one just from still images and a cast listing, and the fact that it was horror and it was Hulu, because Hulu always seems to put out a gem or two every year kind of out of nowhere. Right? Whether, sometimes we know they're coming, something like Prey, but last year we had No One Will Save You, which really kind of came out of nowhere for me and ended up being I think my second favorite film of last year. So Hulu can throw out these gems. Fresh was another one. They just love to throw out these random movies, and I'm like, oh, this has got a hell of a cast. It's got Richie from The Bear, which I don't know how to freaking say his name. Ebon Moss something. How do you say that?
Ebon Moss Bachrock?
I've looked at his name a couple times and I'm like, I don't know how to say that. But yeah, I was, when I saw them, I was like, okay. And the still images and everything made it look cool. So this is set in the 1930s, and they live in like
Oklahoma.
Yeah, like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there's all these like dust storms, and it's making people sick, and they keep coming through, and when they do, people keep dying. And they're waiting for their dad or her husband to return, and then they're gonna leave, but they're kind of like waiting behind for him. And I don't know what else more to say about it.
I think that's a good, general synopsis of it.
Yeah. So, hold your breath, because the dust will kill you.
Yes.
It's a period piece drama with some horror elements.
Yes.
I would say the horror is fairly light in this, and we're much more dealing with drama. Unfortunately, I found this one to be fairly a snooze fest for me. The film is very repetitious. The acting, so all of the flair of the film, as far as the way it's shot, the way that it's acted, all that stuff, that's all excellent. So it's a very well-made film, right? But this is kind of how I feel about a lot of period pieces. This is why I don't care for period pieces, especially before that period of time. With what era is that, where the chicks are all in the really nice outfits and they're being married off to dudes
in Victorian times?
I said Victorian,
it's not Victorian
one era
times,
because people are like, that's not Victorian era.
Regency era.
Is that what it is?
Is when Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah,
those are wonderfully made, wonderfully acted, and I'm always bored out of my mind. With this, you don't even have the pizzazz of all of the wonderful outfits and the elegancy and the decor and everything throughout the really rich homes and everything. These are poor people, and everything is very muted in color because they're kind of reminded me a little bit of the opening of Interstellar. When they have the crops are all getting taken by the dust, and there's dust over everything.
Right.
Kind of felt like that, but in the 1930s, but for an entire film.
Yeah.
And it really just plays with her mental issues.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going back and forth, is it in her head? Is it not? And I don't know. I just never grabbed onto it. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely didn't love the film. I think it is really well acted. I think the drama works the best, for sure.
Sure.
I generally am a fan of period pieces, and I like the feel of it, I guess, as far as that aspect of the film goes. But I do think the horror is lacking for me. I think I would have liked to see some concepts played around with a little bit more. There's a few things that are sort of set up, and there's a bit of unreliable narrator stuff kind of going on, and I think I would have liked to have more of a is it or isn't it real type of thing. And I just don't think it went deep enough into that.
Absolutely
at all.
not.
Because we talked a little bit after we finished the film, what this maybe resembles the most in terms of the themes and tone is The Shining. So it's hard to kind of obviously compare movies to The Shining, for people who consider it so great like we do. But yeah, it kind of is like a lesser version of that set in Oklahoma in a way.
If the drama worked better for me, like, I don't care if this doesn't have any horror in it, right? Like, it would suck because the marketing is incorrect as far as the genre label. But a great movie is a great movie, right? So even if there was zero horror in this, I would be coming to tell you guys, like, hey, there's no horror in it, but hey, if you're into dramas, it's fantastic, right? Like, I'm totally open to that if that landed for me, because there's definitely been movies we've watched where I'm like, I don't know if I would really consider this horror. I mean, Red Rooms was kind of that way this year, and I thought it was excellent, right? Where I'm like, I don't know about horror, but maybe.
Yeah.
But that's a fucking fantastic film. And it's also very slow, and it's also about, someone's mental issues and, like, whatnot. So it has similarities in that way, but I found that to be super engaging, as to where with this one, I just never really felt connected to much outside of maybe the family dynamic to a degree. I think all the major players here, we also got like townsfolk that they go to, and we're dealing with a lot of like, old-timey views on things, and that can be eye-rolly, but like immersive because of the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know, one thing that really hurt for me is, as I had said, I never really felt like conflicted on which way I was leaning towards what was happening in the film. I always felt it was this way, and it never steered off course for that, in my opinion. I always felt like, no, it's this. And it continued to just like, it was playing back and forth, but I'm like, no, it's this. And nothing ever made me think otherwise. And when it ended as that, I was like, yeah, of course. Duh. Right? And then you have Richie's from The Bear, Ebon, however you say his name. I felt his character, while he's introduced as something that could be big or major or whatever, I felt like that went absolutely nowhere. And it was kind of like, honestly, his inclusion in this is kind of like head scratchy to me. I'm like, I get it to a degree, right? It adds something, but it really made it feel like it was gonna be a big thing. And I don't even remember where he stopped being part of it, but he kind of just disappeared, and then I was like, what happened to him? Where are we now? What's going on? Okay, I guess we're just done with that. And then it ends, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think his character definitely kind of comes and goes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I like some of the effects that are used. There's a few like things that happen with bodies that I thought was really creepy, and there's definitely like CGI, but there's a few shots of just kind of being in the middle of a dust storm, like outside of a house, and it does feel very isolating, and like thinking about people living in that time when like we didn't have things
very period accurate,
like that. But it's scary because it is kind of like, it's just the elements, it's nature against humans and untamed nature, and that can definitely be really intimidating. And so I like the setting and everything.
Yep, me too.
But yeah, I don't know, I definitely don't think it's a horrible film. It's not one that's making a top list for me at all, of course. No. But I think I would, maybe it was a little higher on it than you, but not by like a ton.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I don't know, I think that if you're like super into drama and period pieces, and you really like Sarah Paulson, and you don't really care if this movie sticks any kind of like horror themes all that well, then you might really vibe with this one. If you really like that idea and the setting, and you just kind of want to vibe with that aesthetic of like the dust storm ridden 1930s Oklahoma with the family surviving the elements idea, and someone is either on the level or they're not mentally, then yeah, it could be for you. It just wasn't for me, I didn't hate it, like you said, well made, but I was just bored. I really just was. I mean, pretty much throughout, I was really just not into it. I kind of fell out of it very quickly, unfortunately. I kept thinking like, oh, this is gonna pull me in, something's gonna rope me in, when dude shows up, I'm gonna be like, all right, now I'm in. No, never happened.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, but that's that. This will be streaming exclusively to Hulu. on October the 3rd. So, got much of a wait if you're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And hey, you never know. Maybe it'll be your thing, even if it wasn't ours. All right. Let us know. We'll see you in the comments.
Bye.
I should have said, but don't hold your breath.